Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Slow Flowers Show. We moved our vodcast over to Fridays, as you might have noticed last week. We've got a very cool show today. It's a full hour, so I'm going to jump right in and come back at the end of the interview for a bonus video, and I'll share our sponsor thank yous before we wrap up. So let's just dive right in and meet Jen Healy. Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show with Deborah Prinzing. This is episode 544. Today, I want to follow up on another one of the themes from our 2022 Slow Flowers Floral Insights and Industry Forecast, which we released last month. I want to take a little deeper dive into one of the themes. Our second insight is grow your own bouquet. And today's guest, Jen Healy, is one of the people who helped me realize this important shift in the marketplace. When Jen first joined the Slow Flower Society with her business, J&B Garden Center, we jumped on the phone last year so I could get to know her better. And it was probably very early in 2021. And I learned that J&B is an independent, family-owned retail garden and home decor destination in Albany, which is located about 70 miles south of Portland near Corvallis. Jen and I discussed the important intersection between gardening and cut flower growing and how she's integrating the two worlds through the business she and her husband started. I think in 2019, she'll tell us more about that. So today we'll meet Jen, talk about the floral program at J&B, and see a bonus presentation that Jen prepared after her trip last month to the Dallas home and gift market. Jen is going to share her scouting photos and talk about 5 key trends that she noticed there, lifestyle and decor themes, and concepts that you will want to know about for your floral enterprise. So let's jump right in and get started. And welcome, Jen Healy. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for having us, Deborah.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
I'm excited about this. It's a good way to start the new year with a look ahead on the horizon and what's coming.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, we put a little slide deck together just because it's winter and we may or may not have time to do a walking tour of the garden center. But why don't I put that up and you can start by just introducing us to your business and giving us a snapshot of what your business is all about. So now we've got a slide up that kind of introduces us to the front facing side of J&B. So give us an introduction. And by the way, you're J of J&B, right?
I am. So J is for Jen, and my husband, Brent, we both started together, and we had just been kind of one of our passions. We bought a home about 4.5 years ago, and just up the hill from what was our current neighborhood garden center. And we're down there every single day, right? And primarily gardening, except I did do a lot of containers with annuals. And so the owners of our local garden center were closing and retiring after being there for 20 years. So we really knew how much of a mainstay that business, and that it's kind of like a little heart of the community, right? So we knew that. We felt a huge loss coming. And so we decided to move in to an empty building, 15,000 square feet. And
there you are.
Get crazy on our own. So we've been going about 2.5 years now. So that was the building. That's just one corner of it. It's 15,000 square feet of interior retail space. And then outside is about 1.5 acres to 2 acres of a space that we have for bulk bark and rock and all of our trees and shrubs and everything.
That's incredible. I mean, that is just, there we go. I was like, where am I on the screen? I want to see you. That is cavernous. And so from 2019, good luck for starting a new business right before COVID too, right?
Yeah, that didn't help. Oh my gosh.
But had your husband been in the nursery industry, or had you been in the landscape business? Like, what possessed you to think you could do this?
No. So the answer is no to both of those. However, I personally have always been an entrepreneur. I originally started in the late 90s with the scrapbooking and rubber stamping industry. And so I grew a local storefront from the small little downtown area into one of the biggest accounts and stores in Oregon. So I had gone through that process in the past in my career, and so I know that inside piece of merchandising and wholesale buying and seasonality and all of that. And Brent is a safety manager, or he was always a safety manager in commercial construction. And so he's a business professional and understands a lot of that end, but he hadn't owned his own business before. And so that was a big learning curve, or even not even just a learning curve, but for him, he came in, usually you start small and grow big, right?
Right.
Bless his heart. He came in and I was like, no, it's this, yes, it's big scale.
So you had this like tolerance for risk, and you knew what needed to be done to launch this business correctly.
Right. And I kind of practiced for a few days at the previous garden center before they closed. And he came down and helped me one weekend, and he was like, this is so much fun, talking to people about, spraying their orchards with, their dormant spray, and getting ready for spring, and talking about lawns and running a dump truck and a loader. He was in heaven. So,
this is fast forward the slide we're looking at now to 2021.
2 years. Yeah.
This is your interior space that is merchandised so beautifully. And it kind of shows a little bit of your vibe, where you're mixing new products with vintage, and that sort of feels like it fits the community of Albany too, right?
It does, actually, because we're a smaller town. I want to say in the 60,000s or high end, but at the same time, we're smack dab in the middle of the Willamette Valley, and so highly ag farmers. All of our friends are farmers or business owners, and in that industry. And so, the boards that are on our island there, and that corrugated metal, I luckily was able to mix both my worlds, love of being a hoarder, a junker. Before we opened the store, I had a storage unit just for all my treasures.
Wow.
But, so I pulled those boards out of a barn about 10 miles from here, and my best girlfriend loves woodworking. She made us that island. The fan is from a farmer in Madras, his old windmill that we repurposed. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, and here's a little peek of an overview, just to show that when you do have a big cavernous space, you can still give these intimate vignettes and groupings of merchandise. So the consumer walks through the way you want them to, I suppose.
Right. Yep. And that's really what we tried to do. The goal, having a store in the past, a retail store, I already was accustomed to making sure that there's an intentional flow for our customers when they come in the door. Which way are they going to turn? What do I want them to see from every angle that they're shopping and taking us in? And
experience.
So, we create a lot of little vignettes, and we try to make it feel like home. So there's a lot of stuff in here that, I picked up for $3 at an estate sale, and I might mark it up to 15 or 20, but I really want people to see that, I want them to see that they can use functional goods that they have in a unique way at home. Yeah. And then still, obviously, the new products go great with it as well.
And then the image on the left, this is out in your outdoors part of the nursery, right?
Yep. So there's a story behind that picture. That is just kind of one angle of our acreage outside and under our plant barn, we call it. And one of the things, when it gets really, really hot, people don't enjoy shopping for plants. And we have to turn our overhead sprinklers on to kind of keep everything cool. We've got to keep the ground cool so that the roots don't burn such. And so those days when we know it's going to be, 108 or 105, we turn our sprinklers on and we rent a snow cone machine, and we call it Snow Cones and Sprinklers. We plan ahead. So we invite all the kids to come down with their parents, and they just get in their swimsuits and their they get snow cones and they just run around the garden center in the overhead sprinklers having a blast.
I love it.
That was me out there running with them, obviously.
It's so smart. And hopefully the parents are shopping for plants because they're having fun and you're out there getting wet too.
Yeah. Sometimes they do. Most of the time there's that balance of trying to do something like that for marketing and otherwise just really trying to do it for the community. And I think that's one thing I missed over the years that I didn't own a local business, is that I wasn't as easily able to jump into community events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
wow. Well, when we were planning for this episode, you shared a concept of yours that I think is exemplified in these images, and we'll go on to the next slide too, which is surprise and delight. And that snow cone story is a perfect example of that. No one's sitting around waiting for J&B Garden Center to start a snow cone and sprinkler day, but people love it now, right? And you've created a tradition.
They do. And so as I was actually pulling some of these photos for you, I thought, you know what, I need to get that on the calendar right away for next year, because whether it's hot or not, we want to do it. It was so much fun.
That's neat.
That concept of surprise and delight, that one is one that we focus on all around. And it comes into plays into different points of contact that we have with customers. It plays into the way we do our CSA floral, membership such through the summer. And where that stems from is I had a few years working with Four Seasons hotels and resorts globally, and all their properties and directors of marketing and public relations and such. And one of their mottos is really to surprise and delight their guests. And that's kind of just ingrained in me now, thinking it doesn't have to be a travel stay or anything like that, but how can I pop in, even if I'm designing a new landscape, where can I put those little personality pieces of that homeowner into their landscape, where when they are having guests go through or they're sharing their garden, those little points of surprise and delight still pop out for them too. So
yeah, I think I would be surprised and delighted if I walked up on this photo of this vintage farm truck or delivery truck that has now been turned into a fixture, basically to display garden art and plants, and it kind of gives people decorating ideas too. It's charming.
It is. That truck is, when you spend money you probably shouldn't, but you never regret it. That's that truck. It was for sale down the road, and I told Brent, I said, I want this truck, and it's going to be perfect for so many different things outside, and it's a conversation piece. And during the pandemic, one of the things that moved me so much is on Mother's Day, that first year, people were finally able to go outside and congregate. And we had so many families who came and had what would have been their Sunday brunch or Sunday church photos on Mother's Day. They came here and had their photos taken in front of that truck. And that was all organic.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was going to happen. So we love that truck.
That's neat. Okay, let's just another. This is your plant area. This is fun to show too, because your house plant business is pretty big, right?
Yes. We have about 2,500 square feet of indoor greenhouse that we keep temperature controlled, and we have humidity controls in there. And then who doesn't love houseplants and cats? So that's our Maggie.
Is that the nursery cat?
Yes, we have 3. We have 3 nursery cats.
This photo on the left, I think you have to talk about, because it maybe is like back to that hoarder and junker talent you have.
Yes. So that is a $50 garage find that came from a good friend of mine who was having an estate sale. And that's an example of, if you love it, do not ever get rid of it, no matter what, no matter who convinces you to sell it, don't do it. And then also a very, very kind of rare antique find of a Columbia yarn hutch that I just put together on the top. So
I love it. So this is now,
I love that.
Sometimes you refinish the pieces and sometimes you use the old patina or a combination, right?
Yep, exactly. And so that I ended up selling that hutch and I regret it to this day, but I left it original.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then on the right is we do classes all year round. So this was pre-COVID, obviously, but we can seat about 30 to 50 people for all sorts of classes, whether it's Christmas, floral design, cooking classes, all sorts of stuff.
Wow. Wow. That's great. Looks like this was maybe a Christmas swag or wreath class.
Yep. Wreath making. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. Okay, let's talk about the flower part of it. Because I come out of gardening, and actually my garden writing career started writing for a independent garden center in Linwood, Washington, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I totally get what you're doing, but people weren't doing cut flowers back in the day at independent garden centers. So this is a facet that I've really been enjoying seeing happen, but people have to really invest in it. You can't just throw a bucket of flowers out and call it good. Like you've developed a program, right?
Yes. No, you cannot. So the last couple of years, we've sort of been testing the waters with growing cut flowers. And really the concept for me stemmed from, I can kind of see that trend coming a few years ago where people are the home gardener. I just get the vibe that they're going to start wanting to grow their own cut gardens. And there's obviously a difference in regular gardening and even growing your own perennials and annuals and nursery cut flowers.
Right.
So by that, I mean the cut flowers, you come to the garden center nursery and it says great for cut flowers on the tag. That is good in theory, but for what we do in an actual cut flower industry where we're doing design and arranging and everything that we do all the time, there is a huge difference. And so for me, I needed to learn how to grow cut flowers so that I could teach our customers, who I am pretty sure are going to want to do that.
Yeah. And what you're talking about, I've also noticed too, that there's this dwarfing of plants in the nursery trade so that the stems are shorter, I guess, to go into the beds and borders, but they're not practical then when you have a short, I don't know, we have a short dahlia or a short mum.
Right.
They don't work for cut flowers, but the nursery trade hasn't made that switch.
Well, they haven't made that switch. I think, they still use fax machines in the nursery trade. So there's that. I'm not knocking us because I'm here. But I'm going to leave that one alone. So there's that. The other thing is there is, there's a method to, as all of our listeners know, growing those long stems, little bit of foliage, large blooms, large stems, how tight we pack them in, all those methods of growing cut flowers. That isn't anything that's more of a concept for the nurseries. And so they're not even necessarily, a nursery grower is not thinking about that. And there are some that work when you go to your garden center and shop, but there are some that don't. And that's one of the things the last 2 years that I've been testing is I grew, my dahlia tubers right next to nursery grown, the ones that I brought home from the store that say cut flowers, and they're dahlias in the 1 gallons. I grew those side by side this last year just so that I could see how good can I get them with pinching and how much of a difference is there.
It's more about variety selection then, and you're trying to bring the products, or excuse me, the varieties that professional flower farmers are growing into the retail garden center. That's sort of the new twist.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, how does the bouquet bar work? That's a cute little vignette there.
So we have, surprisingly, did really, really well growing cut flowers the first couple of years. And so this is excess of, we do a CSA delivery weekly for regular customers to their homes and then also to local businesses as well. And so we deliver businesses on Mondays, and Thursdays are for consumers, Thursday afternoon, so they have it for the weekend. But this is just all of our excess that sits in our cooler throughout the week. So we harvest, I bet we harvest every morning, if not every other. There's 3 plots that we grow on. And so we figure, why not put out every weekend, and sometimes during the week, we put out this bouquet bar where you can come, all of our customers can come in and buy by the stem. And we've got vessels out there for sale as well, but we'll help and give them sort of design tips if they want them. And otherwise they just will come in and buy by the stem and put together, whatever they're looking for.
That's neat.
From
That's
those
wonderful.
bouquet bars.
And they're getting varieties that are unique, that probably the only other place you could buy cut flowers is maybe a grocery store probably wouldn't have. Right. They wouldn't let you buy by the stem probably either.
No, I don't think, you don't get to buy by the stem, and you definitely do not get amaranth that beautiful.
Yeah.
And long.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, here's one of your growing areas. You said you have 3. So is it just because you're trying to utilize all the space available to you in a town?
Well, partially. So this is in my backyard plot, and this is probably 30 by 60, 30 by, no, I bet 40 by 60 or 70. And so
that's decent. That's a decent size. That's my whole backyard, by the way. That dimension.
Yeah, we're on just under 3/4 of an acre. And so this is in the back where it's all deer protected. And then I do have 2 other plots that are deer protected on the front and on the side of the house, where it's more of accompaniments to this and more sunflowers and stuff. But I've got all my dahlias in here, all of my zinnias, all my snapdragons, and then sweet peas and celosa and all that good jazz.
That's so cool. And then you're also growing at the nursery, you said, or in another location?
Yes. Yep. So our florist who does all of our arrangements and such here at the store, she actually, she's been in the nursery industry for years, and she lives right down the street from me. And I would always stop at her farm stand to buy my fresh bouquets every week, even owning a garden center. I'd swing by there, and she had bouquets ready to sell in her farm stand and veggies and such. So now I convinced her to work with us. So she's on full time. And so we cut from her farm plot and then mine. And then also we have a space that's probably triple the size of what you're seeing there in my backyard, attached to our store. And so we grow out there as well.
Wow, that's cool. Is this another view of your backyard, or is this at the store?
No, this is another view of my backyard.
I love your raised beds.
Angle. Thank you. Yeah, I practiced trying to grow cut flowers and such, some different varieties in there. It didn't fly. So I would say stick with your raised beds to your herbs that you're going to add. Pack them full of that. Yeah. Wow. And then on the left, during COVID, since our store is so large, in the far corner, I built a commercial kitchen so we could do cooking classes and have catering events. And it's a commissary kitchen as well. And so when in the summertime, we'll put all of our stems and do all of our stripping and everything on those big tables in the back area. And then we also built a walk-in cooler with the cool box system.
It's amazing.
To keep that. Yeah.
What percentage of your business is cut flowers? It can't be, considering that you're selling huge nursery plants and doing landscape design. It's probably a smallish component, right?
Oh, maybe like 5%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot smaller. It will grow though.
Yeah.
And just even, feeling the vibe kind of the feedback we're getting from the customers and everything. There's definitely room for it to grow.
Well, you mentioned that you had the CSA subscription, but it sounds like you're going to go a little deeper in this for 2022. Do you want to talk about the program that you're launching soon?
Yeah. So everybody, I had so many folks, once they saw through our Instagram and Facebook and social things, and we talked to customers here in the store, once they heard that we were flower farming, they had so many questions. And so we would chat about, what kind of deer pressure are we getting? What kind of insects are we dealing with right now? And so many of our customers are in this same 5 to 10 mile radius. This next season in our classes, we're actually doing a year-long class that is Grow Along with J&B. And so there'll be live in-person classes that once a month where we do, we actually go right into our plots of where we're growing And so when I'm showing, in February or what have you, burning the landscape fabric for the holes. So the people who are in that course will be with us in our backyard, learning how and trying it out. And then we'll be live streaming as well, so that folks who are remote can still have that experience of being in the field throughout the year. So it's every month, it's what are we doing this month? And it's
so smart.
Yeah.
How are you Jen, how are you charging for that? Or have you figured that out yet?
I couldn't tell you a price for it, to be honest. It's a lot less than some of the other classes are thousands of dollars, and I won't be charging that level of rate for a couple of reasons, primarily because I don't have a lot of the curriculum written yet. So I don't have a workbook of handouts already ready to go. And right now I'm trying to do displays and prep for, spring onions. So I won't have that piece of it.
Well, these students are going to be your beta. This is your beta class. They're going to be your guinea pigs.
Exactly. Yeah. This is our soft launch. And after this year, then we'll have a curriculum. And so it's definitely affordable, I think.
But what a way to engage customers on a monthly basis, so that everything they need, they're going to come to J&B Garden Center to purchase, from soil to pots to seeds to tools. So all of that activity yields them cut flowers, but they need you for all those supplies.
Right. And one other benefit that I didn't realize until after the fact that we would get is, obviously I have the luxury of telling my husband, hey, can you bring home, a dump truck load full of that premium soil we have at the store? I get that luxury. But at the same time, I also get to test it. And so I have friends who buy their products from me. They, are customers. I say friends, but customers, they're buying from me. They're growing 2 miles away from me. So they've got the same exact weather patterns and everything. And one of the two things I noticed last year is our soil made a difference in our yields and how productive our crops were. And then also the multiple varieties that I've planted. Again, I get that luxury. Obviously, I, have the whole line of seeds and such, but at the same time, I didn't have hardly any insect issues. I only had a little bit of powdery mildew on some zinnias here and there because I hadn't harvested fast enough. But when I would have customers who were saying they were having, huge aphid issues, so on and so forth, I had to look at what I was doing and go, all right, what made that difference? What did I do different than they did? And I think those two factors, the quality of the soil and starter fertilizer, and then also the multiple varieties for pollinators to help keep everything healthy. Those would be my two top takeaways from that.
That's cool. And so you're just sharing your expertise with them because they want what you have. So
right.
That's awesome. Well, I know you're going to have that up on your website, so we'll make sure we share all your links and your social places in our show notes next week when we do this as the audio podcast, so people can find that. Great. And I'll put the deck that we're looking at, I'll put that link in too for people who want to go back and see what you've talked about. I think this is the last slide from the J&B Garden Center section. And let's pivot to your recent shopping trip to the Dallas Home and Gift Market. I've never gone to that. I've heard about it. I hear it's like massive and takes many days. So you went on a buying trip, and these photos are just the photos you took of things you spotted, but you've packaged them into some interesting themes. So I'd love to have you tell us about what you saw and how you think it's going to influence the lifestyle marketplace for consumers.
Right. So one of the things I loved most in the craft and hobby industry was doing the shows every year. And I probably went 10 years of doing every market show for craft and hobby. So I was a little bit prepared already for this Dallas show is above and beyond any of the others. But I mean, it was a full 5 days of on your feet morning till night and homework back at the house afterwards. So, but a couple of the things that I saw is the first one is agriculture in home decor and design. And so some of these vibes are really going to throw you guys, I have to say too, by the way.
Should I go on to the next slide?
Yeah. Let's bump over to the next. So there's a theme going, and it's happening in wall prints, statuaries, fabric, all sorts of different things that are focused on cows, sheep, horses, a little bit of pigs here and there, but mostly sheep and cows are huge.
Well, we see the print that kind of has this pastoral vintage look, and then the three-dimensional sheep head. I think you were telling me that the skull there is probably more of a Texas thing than an overall trend, but it kind of, I know that people collect those things for their gardens or their barns or kitchens.
They do. And this particular guy has them priced pretty hefty, but they're original, and those are actually real flowers and succulents, but the flower part has been preserved. So they're authentic, but those don't really, I can't do the skull thing personally, but others can. So see, you've got that sheep there standing up as a display piece. And right behind it, you can see a different concrete statuary head mounted on the wall.
Right.
So those are definitely hot. Yep. I love those. And I was kind of questioning the buyers that I was working with. Is I said, okay, so is this more because we're in Texas, or are you taking these same displays and everything to Vegas and Seattle too? And they said, nope, it's not just because we're in Texas. So
wow.
So I had to kind of pre-clarify.
So the framed prints, are they reproductions, or they're not expensive antiques, but they've been inspired by expensive antiques probably.
Right. And so those are just vendors who have taken, and we could all do this. This is one where I'm going to make my own, take my collection of all old windows. And what they did is they had artwork that they either owned or was royalty free, and printed it on canvas and just stapled it to the back of those.
Wow.
I mean, granted, there's more formal artwork available in that same style, but that particular picture, that's all that is.
That's crazy. There was another one too. Oh, there's more animal heads that were just in the smaller, like hook kind of detail.
Yep, they're coming in every shape and style.
I could see that for sale milk cow sign is probably either a reproduction, because if it was an antique, it would be very expensive.
Yeah, no, it's a reproduction. So I think the retail on that size of this, and it's a good reproduction though. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I touched it. It's right there with it. I think that one probably retails for about $150.
Wow.
Ish.
Yeah.
Under 200.
And you can see some of, like, what of all of this did you actually buy for your store? Or other than
I bought all those.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I bought this. I could keep pointing. Yeah. I bought, I did buy, I think, one of those milk cows, specifically only because I know we have so many dairy farmers here in the Willamette Valley.
Someone's going to want that.
Yes. Yep.
And then you're going to have to order more.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. You had we've talked about this whole like Pantone very Perry color of the year, but you saw another color that you were excited about. And I'm going to go to that slide.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if you call it this, but after you showed me this blue, I happened to see this paint feature in the current issue of Better Homes and Gardens, and that same blue popped up, and I'm like, well, Jen's onto something. And they called it, that particular paint was called Stockholm blue. I don't know. You probably want to describe it better than that.
Well, yeah, it was one of the things that stood out to me outside of the agriculture thing. You know, even while I was walking the show, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. That 1986 blue is coming back, you know, like my mom had it in wallpaper borders with ducks. We had that exact Stockholm blue in 1988. We had lattice. My mom painted lattice and put it on our wall in our dining room. But that blue color is here, and it's coming in all sorts of shades and hues. And so, like you'll see the ones that you, I'll have to get a picture and we can add it to this when we go live. But I came home immediately from the show, and was working on figuring out what color it was before you sent me that BHG image. But I was mixing my own paint colors because I was like, I'm going to start painting stuff right now. But it kind of comes in all sorts of hues. So it's that lighter blue with that lamp on the left is one. And then the hutches and the furniture and those prints that you see on the right, those are a lot more gray. And the prints behind it have actually a lot more brownish sort of aged brown added to those
but
core
even
colors.
like that glass jug on the table has that sort of bottle blue. Let's look at a few more that you sent over. Like these are like stained or painted wooden pieces, right? But you see it in the metal on those lanterns on the left too.
Yeah, so I have those exact lanterns in our store, and right now my tops are only in that bronzy coppery color that's standard, and these are the exact same thing. They just drug a foam brush with the blue paint over the top. Wow. Look, and I'm giving out all the secrets on how to
wow. Well, I think there were some others that you sent me that didn't get into the deck, but even like pillows, upholstery, kind of it's an accent color that just is a refresh, right?
Yep. And it's really it's an accent color, but it blends in with everything. Like we've been on the trend of neutrals, and grays for so long that this is a natural inclusion. Last year before, we saw more navy blue coming. So I think this is almost like the neutral-ish gray blue.
Yeah. It's very pleasing. Okay, so how are you going to apply this blue theme at J&B Garden Center?
Well, we already started. So like I said, I came home and immediately started mixing and blending paints to try to find that color.
Wow.
And this is for us, January is our rest month, and in February we just get busy. Getting all of our displays ready for the season coming up in March. And so we are blending our own colors. I got some off the shelf, but primarily we're painting.
You're painting a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because I want it incorporated. I'm not going to go crazy, but I need it incorporated in a few different spots. And
so that's the door to that hutch.
Right. Yep. And then it has the top. And what I'll do, one of our passions is aging furniture. And so we'll age this and put the glass back in this curio and everything. But that's part of it. And then I'll show you we've got everything blocked off from customers right now.
This is the back of the house, people.
Yes, exactly. So really quick, see that green moss cow up above on top of our beach fridge?
Yes.
That was an accidental order, but a couple years ago, it's a giant moss cow, and I'm so excited we have it now.
You're like, I was ahead of the trend. I had it already.
Right. But so here with the ag, I bought authentic rugs, cowhide rugs and such when I was in Dallas. And so we're taking pre-orders for those. So those are kind of different ways that we're incorporating all the pieces and things that I gleaned from the show and ordered.
And showing people how to use it in their home and giving them confidence. That is fantastic. Thanks for that little sneak peek too. It gives people a sense of what you're doing. I love it. Okay. This is one that you called Eclectic and Passion Elements. And this is more to the you be you kind of, or be true to yourself kind of sense that you picked up on, right? I'm not describing it well.
Well, so Eclectic and Passion Elements, that was the words I could find that fit the vibe best. But what I saw is it's just I think it's permission to throw in something that is a surprise and delight, so to speak, for what you love in your home or in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's your clothing or your decor or anything like that. I think it's just, I saw a bunch of oddball stuff thrown in where I was like, well, that was interesting. That style doesn't fit with the farmhouse boho or this more traditional style, you know. But at the same time, it still all work together.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought about it like, you know, we've got folks like, for example, you know, you have your graphic tees that are hot right now, right? So I've got that under a flannel with a, you know, a plaid and a floral neckerchief. That's my favorite word, neckerchief.
It is kind of, I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we see it in fashion where you're getting the clash of a print and a plaid or polka dot and stripe. But it seems to, for whatever reason, it looks harmonious, even though it's clashing.
Right. Yeah. It's like we're breaking all the rules that our grandmothers and our mothers gave us, you know?
Yeah.
So like, for instance, the doilies that are underneath that, not everybody's going to go with doilies right now. I'm not saying that's a style, but that photo after we got back from the show, I was at my girlfriend's house and I noticed she had doilies and I thought that's an example of her incorporating what she's passionate about in a gorgeous home, you know? So
well, when we did
permission.
Yeah. And my, my presentation for the Slow Flowers Floral Insights, Robin Avni, my partner, mentioned this thing she's read about called Granny Chic, which is the younger, like Gen Z kids, loving all that 1970s or older stuff that their grandparents decorated with. Whereas, you know, like my nieces who are in their, you know, early 30s.
Right.
They're into that. Whereas I would never be. And I think the doily kind of fits into that as well.
Right. It's kind of like my boys are 25 and 23 and they're all about vintage clothing, you know, and so I think I can see that tying in.
Yeah. And I think this photo on the left is just a hot mess, but I know
it is a hot mess.
There's stuff in there that caught your eye.
Yeah, it's a super hot mess. That one in particular was, I took that picture because those serving spoons caught my eye in terms of something that kind of brings your eye up. So in this building in particular, when I'm merchandising, I'm coming in with we've already been hanging stuff from our big rafters in the past, but I'm coming in with more of that surprise and delight type of installation that has stuff coming down that just catches your eye and you just think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so obviously you're not going to do that probably in your home, although in small amounts, there's other photos that I put in here that I thought, why couldn't you put that, you know, in your house?
Right. But it is kind of like the runway, you know, exaggeration that then gets reinterpreted. So for people who are watching this, I mean, we have so many members who are have retail shops, and that merchandising is something that creates an environment when the customer steps in. So I can see where it's translatable. Even that one on the right where you've got that piece of art and it's hanging in front of a hutch, that kind of confused me at first, but I was like, well, it's a vertical surface.
It is. And so it's like, let's just think of how can we incorporate the everyday in a new and different way? Yeah. And so I think we all kind of, we get stuck in the whole just standard, you know, just doing that homogenization of everything sort of a look. And I think outside the box. And if you throw something up and it looks good, go with it.
Yeah.
So this trend is more, it should be your permission slip.
Yeah. You know? I love that. Well, I think that breaking the rules is kind of what we've all embraced with COVID. So it's it should carry through to home decor and even floral. And the next category is floral. So this one, I put floral mix up on here because I knew it was beyond foraging, and it's sort of an interesting thing that you noticed. For example, like this image here, what it looks like it's a combination of dried and preserved.
It's a combination of dried and fresh. So those roses are fresh.
Okay.
And then there are elements that are dried. Like I think the celosia and the bunny tails, there's bunny tails grasses in there.
Yeah.
Those are dried. And then you've got your preserved moss as a base. So
it's just kind of an interesting juxtaposition.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, it's in a tray. And a lot of times when I'm designing, I'll need something that is of this height, of this length. And photos like this and examples like this felt like it gave me permission to totally think outside the box. And, you know, it doesn't all have to come in a traditional vessel with water. Essentially, what I see coming, and I wanted permission to do it earlier this year myself when I was designing with my cut bouquets, is I asked myself, since we sell high quality faux and we also sell fresh garden supplies and dried, I wanted the permission to mix all those elements all together, the faux, the dried, and the fresh.
Wow.
And I wasn't sure if that was, a faux pas.
No pun intended.
I don't even know where that came from. I didn't even know I said that. Okay. So yeah, this is an example. I didn't do it personally. I hesitated and chose not to because I thought, well, I wonder if that'll be stupid or, wrong, so to speak. But at the show, I saw the designers for all the displays were doing it. And so I think that, I struggled with that concept. Even I had to wait a couple days going back to the show and seeing more examples of it, because I thought, well, Slow Flowers, that, we focus a lot on sustainability. And I actually teach the Slow Flowers, I call it a methodology, or a mindset. I teach that to our customers who are buying cut flowers from us and why it's important. And I thought, well, is it sustainable to have something that's artificial in those arrangements and such? But so if you look at the image on the left, this is a mix of fresh and very high quality faux. You would have to touch it to know.
Right.
I had to physically touch it to know.
Right.
And so the ornamental kale or cabbage is fresh. The grasses on the left are faux. The snapdragons are fresh. The
That's crazy.
Cressipedias are fresh. There's a couple other freshes in there, but the other elements are faux. And the amaranth coming down, he's made out of fabric.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I feel like it's more of a home decor treatment for people who want something unique that's going to maybe live on their buffet table or on their mantle for more than just the life of a fresh arrangement, right? Is that sort of why this is happening?
I think so. And I think I come at it from, because I do installations in customers' homes. I go into their home and set up for events and such for them. Yeah. And I think it's helpful to be able to mix the two, not just for the consumer, but also as a designer. Those are all pieces that are usually kind of a standard, it's going to be something that they can have every year. So if I'm going in next year to work with that client, I already know she has those elements and, she's keeping them well, and I can reuse those next year. I can reuse those from season to season. And I think it's almost more encouraging if I'm only harvesting from my, fields that are ready right now. Sometimes you still do want something else new in there, or I don't happen to have that grass. I think tying them together.
Yeah. Or what do you do in the winter?
Sometimes.
Yeah. What do you do in the winter months? So,
well, that's that. I mean, that's part of what jumped out at me for this, is because as a florist in the winter months, I don't get to do Slow Flowers.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So,
or you're limited. Well, I think there's definitely, I think it's an option for some people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it relates to educating the consumer about what is local and what's not. And maybe you do a percentage and that's okay too.
I wouldn't ever imagine that I would have more than probably 10% in a bouquet or an arrangement. Yeah. I think I just don't, in my head, I think I can think outside of what's fresh and available for some of the sizzle in
the drama pieces.
Right. Exactly. That drama.
Yeah. Very fun. Okay. This is I think our last one. And this seemed to, there's that blue again. And that I knew there was a photo with the blue cushion.
Yep.
But size and scale, you said, is just like maybe it's because you were in Texas, but bigger is taking on, bigger elements are taking on prominence in home decor.
Well, and I think, again, this one, I don't know, a magazine might not call it a trend, so to speak, but for me, it was a quick reminder of how important size and scale is in your overall design. And that's for, arranging or in your home decor. And so there's no reason why, like, if you've got the space, we can think and grow bigger. Look at that mirror. It's got that big mantle underneath, the big chunky pieces, and it still makes the space feel cozy. And I think that is, if I were going to say, here's one thing that folks do wrong, or could do better in home design, is bringing in bigger pieces off the get-go.
Yeah.
Don't shy away from them. I think it's really important. And I think we have the opportunity now to do so.
Well, look at the urns that have the branches too, and on either side of the mirror. That is easy to do, and totally drama. It doesn't cost much, but it has that dramatic effect. I think there's one that you showed me. I didn't know. Here's another few things in lighting that you were talking about.
Yeah, lighting is probably the number one place that I can say go big first. And if you have to scale back, you can. But no matter what, you're going to get a chandelier or a lighting piece in your space, and it's never going to look as big as you think it is. So
there's that arrangement.
I say go bigger.
That's that arrangement that you showed us a detail of earlier. Now I get a sense of that. Fabric amaranth. That's so interesting.
Right. And so I had a customer this last Christmas who has a 12-foot long, large dining table, and she's got 19-foot ceilings. And I literally in my store couldn't find something ready to go that was big enough for her table.
For her scale.
Right. And so, and going off of, that'd be a very difficult and expensive arrangement to do all fresh on the left, but size scale wise it matched. And if I would have had some of those faux elements, I could have definitely got her Christmas arrangement. And still, she's got those few picks in there for future.
Well, I was going to say that's sort of even for someone who has what it sounds like is a limitless budget, if they feel like they're investing in a piece that they can reuse, there is a little bit of that response that's a little more positive. This one was, the left photo, that mirror is insane. And
I bought that mirror.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh,
I love that mirror. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, so how do you intend to use it in the store or for yourself?
No, I actually have 7-foot ceilings, so that is even a bit big for me.
Okay.
I'm going to use it in the store on a buffet, just like that, leaned up against one of our vignette walls. We have barnwood vignette walls. So yeah, I love that. And you know what? That's a piece where I'm actually buying it for that impact and that vibe. And it's not something that is going to sell real quick in my store, but it's traditional. It's going to give the overall ambiance and help towards that. And it'll take the right customer to take it home. But in the meanwhile, it's helping our aesthetic.
Yeah, I love it. And the images, the lights on the right, the thing I wanted to comment on or ask you about is these are huge, just like the ones that were on the earlier slide, but they're sort of transparent so that you don't have that sense that there's this ominous mass hanging from the ceiling. It's got a lightness to it that
and it also is blending a more traditional colonial type of design look with more of a modern because they've got that silver finish on it, and this is inside of a church. And so you wouldn't automatically think that would be the lighting choice, but it sure works because even though you're blending two, it works.
What I also like about it, now that we're on analyzing the ceiling, is there's a trio. So it's creating a pattern. It's not just one lonely light fixture. It has a lot more impact.
Yep,
and from a retailer's point of view, why not sell 3 instead of 1, right?
That's right. Yes.
Well, this was so much fun, Jen. I love what you're
Thank
doing,
you.
and I love
Thank
talking
you.
with you. I learned so much, and I think that bringing your expertise from another category of scrapbooking and rubber stamping, and seeing
Yeah.
how the consumer responds to retail,
Right.
themes, you're just translating that into what you're doing now and getting to play with
And
flowers too.
yeah, and that's the thing is I really I kind of go off of as an entrepreneur working on what I'm passionate about at the time. And so I don't scrapbook anymore. Shame on me. But that's what my husband and we felt confident coming in and opening a garden center because that's what we were eating, living, breathing, thinking about, researching as a hobbyist anyway,
Right. I love
So
it. Well, good. Well, this has been
thank you.
a wonderful education, and also just having people learn a little bit more about you. I can't wait to get down to Corvallis in the summer and visit J&B. It's not that far. It's a day trip for me.
Nope.
So,
and I can come your way too. We hit Seattle often. So
good. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your story. And I know that our crew of loyal Slow Flowers podcast and vodcast fans have learned something new today too. If there's only one idea that you can take from this, it was worth your time to join us today. Thanks so much.
Right. Thank you.
Hey, that was so much fun. Thank you for joining us to meet Jen Healy and to learn from a true trend spotter who's bringing her passion for cut flowers into the retail environment at her garden center. There's one more very cool video clip. It's a short one that I want to show you. It's a time-lapse movie that Jen sent that she took out of staff floral design training, and it will give you a sense of her design style. So hang on with me and I'll pull that up. Okay, just a little eye candy. Hey, as I mentioned, when we post the audio of today's show for next week's podcast, you'll be able to download a PDF of the PowerPoint deck that we shared today, and also follow links to J&B Garden Center's social places, and you can find out more details about the workshops that we discussed. So you'll look for episode 544 at slowflowerspodcast.com. Okay, before we wrap up, I have a few sponsor thank yous. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 880 florists, shops, and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, returning for 2022, Farm Girl Flowers. Farm Girl Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S.-grown, fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgirlflowers.com. Thanks also to Store It Cold, creators of the revolutionary CoolBot, which you just heard Jen talk about as an addition to what they're doing at J&B Garden Center. You can save thousands when you build your own walk-in cooler with the CoolBot and an air conditioner. If you don't have time to build your own, they also have turnkey units available. Learn more at storeitcold.com. Our next sponsor thank you goes to flowerfarm.com, a leading wholesale flower distributor that sources from carefully selected flower farms to offer high-performing fresh flowers sent directly from the farm straight to you. You can shop by flower and by country of origin at flowerfarm.com and find flowers and foliage from California, Florida, Oregon, and Washington, and other places using the Origin Selection tool in your search. Learn more at flowerfarm.com. Our final sponsor thank you goes to the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers. Formed in 1988, ASCFG was created to educate, unite, and support commercial cut flower growers. Its mission is to help growers produce high-quality floral material and to foster and promote the local availability of that product. Learn more at ascfg.org. The Slow Flowers Show is a member-supported endeavor, and I value our loyal members and supporters. If you're new to our weekly show or our long-running podcast, check out all of our resources at slowflowerssociety.com and consider making a donation to sustain Slow Flowers' ongoing advocacy, education, and outreach activities. You can find the donate button in the column to the right at slowflowerspodcast.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of The Slow Flowers Show and The Slow Flowers Podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor, company, or organization. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next week.